So I just shot my first video, about 20 minutes long, and made a mistake. I could edit it out, but I'm trying not to do any editing. So I'm just gonna start over. So I'm Richard, don't be me. An employee of mine got me this. She's been missing since last May and just appeared, so she's okay. Some stuff going on there. So first, some coffee. My youngest daughter got me this. Thank you for teaching me how to be a man, even though I'm your daughter. She has, unfortunately, she's inherited my sense of humor. But I love it. And also, she's given it back to me. Full force, what I put my parents through. But, I'm doing a mentorship with Kiko Louriero of Megadeth. And, it's supposed to be about building your music career. I don't know if I have one, but I want to be creative. And I was in bands after high school in my 20s as a drummer. And I rediscovered a guitar in 2020 and I hadn't played since the late 90s. Big influence of me was one of my oldest cousins, and he died January 2020. Well, it's not related to the COVID stuff. It was before that. He passed away before he had to even know it was a thing. So you can see there's a 8th Street deck back here, a repro hanging on the wall. Matt Hensley, after the Hocus Pocus video in I think 87 or 86, I was hooked. Same guy, he got me into skateboarding and got me into drums. He was in the drum line. He was really good. He was practicing solos on his practice pad, and I just had to do it. And I saw, about the same time, we went to see the Pet Band, and they had a drum kit. It's the first time I saw somebody play a kit with an electric bass, and then, the brass and woodwinds and stuff. That's all it was. They called that the Jazz Band / Pet Band. And combination of my cousin playing and seeing that, I was hooked. At the same time, through skateboarding, they had these magazines. Heavy metal and punk wasn't on. You couldn't find it. The Headbangers Ball was just coming out. We didn't have cable. So we'd look at the shirts, and there was like Metallica shirts, and Megadeth, and Dead Kennedys. So I really got into Dead Kennedys, and Metallica, and then Megadeth. So when I rediscovered guitar in 2020, I had to see what the bands were up to. And I noticed, Kiko Louriero and Dirk, the new drummer, he was in Soilwork. He's great. He did I'm a big Devin Townsend fan. And Dirk did all the, oh man, if you'll listen to Jalar off Deconstruction or the song Deconstruction, you'll see what I mean about Dirk. Like, the guys that play the stuff live have to change it a little bit to get through it. But they were putting videos out, and Kiko especially had a lot of backstage, and it was really cool. One of his latest ones, which I'll link to because it's so good, he showcases the crew, from the light person to the person doing the monitor mixes to front of house, all the techs, drum tech, bass tech, all that. But I noticed he had a guitar school that was online, and I took that, and his course about the modes was the first time it really hit very well for me. And he just has a passion for teaching. It really was cool. And that's how I got into the mentorships, through that. So, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025, 2026, 2027, 2028, 2029, 2030, 2031, 2032, 2033, 2034, 2035, 2036, 2037, 2038, 2039, 2040, 2041, 2042, 2043, 2044, 2045, 2046, 2047, 2048, 2049, 2050, 2051, 2052, 2053, 2054, 2055, 2056, 2057, 2058, 2059, 2060, 2061, 2062, 2063, 2064, 2065, 2066, 2067, 2068, 2069, 2070, 2071, 2072, 2073, 2074, 2075, 2076, 2077, 2078, 2079, 2080, 2081, 2082, 2083, 2084, 2085, 2086, 2087, 2088, 2089, 2090, 2091, 2092, 2093, 2094, 2095, 2096, 2097, 2098, 2099, 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004, 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014, 20 I saw some other channel, because I'm getting fatigued. It's kind of funny that I'm making a YouTube at all, because I'm getting a little fatigued by all the thumbnails and the clickbait things. So I'm thinking, well, I don't want to monetize this that way. If there's people that come in, I'll turn it on to have the ads, and that's probably it. But I don't want to do thumbnails. I don't want to sell stuff. That might not age very well. But at this time, it's just I just want to help. And I have this buddy that's been playing for 30 years, and he's one of those guys that never really got formal training, so he is very good. And he's a working musician, and I hope to have him on. And it's hard to be a working musician in a small town like this. We're in the Ozarks. We're in Springfield, Missouri. You got to have another job usually if you're doing it, even if you're in a bunch of different bands. But I thought, well, he could use small doses of not just theory, but like fretboard knowledge. And so I saw a thing, a guy named Oz Noy was on Brett Papa's YouTube, and I'm going to put a link to that on this video. Everybody should watch it. But he had this thing where he was playing all the notes through the octave shapes. So G, kind of hard to get it. And he was playing rhythm too with it though too, not just that. So not only are you working out where the notes are, and you can see there's a pattern. So there's root, skip a string, octave, octave, back to the A string, octave, octave. Sorry, wrong string, octave. So you do that for all the notes, and as you're doing it, and so what I do is I pick 3 or 4 of them, or this is handy to have something like this, the Beatles chords, because there's ideas in there. I can open a page of it up, and I can take that chord progression. I won't show for copyright reasons, but I don't do, it's F, D, G, C. Just go through all the chords, major and minor. You're just doing the root. So if it was D, just do that around. And there's the open, of course. Once you get it, you start adding a rhythm to it, and it actually kind of helps your phrasing. Because a lot of people, when they play, it's just a lot of straight runs. So, if you're doing these octave things, finding all the G notes, and of course you can't, because you see I keep missing strings. There is technique you're building too. Shoot. So I know I need, practicing these jumps. Open too. The other thing you could do is you could say each string find the G. Right? So, you know, a lot of us know the E string and the A string really well. And if we know those, we also know the high, this E, the high one. So this game can help you fill in all the other stuff, because if you know where the notes are, you can start to break out of your normal routine. Like if you're stuck in a pentatonic thing, a lot of people, it's you're doing E minor pentatonic. It's really hard to make that interesting nowadays, but you know, you could say, okay, most of us are hitting these E's here, but you can come into it from here. That's tip number 2. So, tip number 2 is, if you're playing this shape, which we all know, here's the tabs: 7, 8, 7, 5. Let's try math. Let's try that again. 5, 8, 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 8, 5, 8. And then back up the same. Minor pentatonic, I believe that is considered the first position. You can print something out like this, which I can put a link, but if you just look at any kind of a pentatonic thing, they all hook together. And you can see the orange is the find the note game that I was just doing. That's all the notes. So I can play find the note game, and I look at this thing, and the first thing you notice is there's really not 5 patterns, there's 1. It's the one that I showed you. But the B string's an issue, and then coming it back to the top when you're running the strings. So I can do it here. You notice it's going to be the same thing. Until I get to the B, I'm going to come in a fret because it's tuned a half step down. And then, so this E on the 5th fret of the B, it's the same thing, we're just out of strings. When you hit that, when this happens to you, when you find the root is here, you'll notice the root's also up here. And that's the D shape. So when you come into this one, you're in the D shape. But otherwise, you don't really need to know. You can get into this one, the C. You can get all of them. You can kind of play off the other finger a little too. So this one is here. I'm sorry, here. But every time you find your root note, and so let's see if it's C, for example. You can do the C here. D shape. And it terminates itself into this. So when I say D shape, it's from the major side. And I'm telling you that, and I'll show you why in a minute. There's a chord here of E flat. Try it. If you take this C on the 7th fret, or 8th, I mean, minor pentatonic shape, wherever your pinky lands is the relative major. And so that's your 6th chord to your 1 chord. You can go the other way. If you have A major, F sharp minor is the relative. So G. So if I find the G chord, That's my root A string here on the 8th fret. Just pull it out of here. That'll be the right wing. Whoops. See, I can't be monetized. I just said right wing. Be the right end from my perspective, from the fretboard's perspective, left, right. You have a major triad here on the D shape. Because in cage, that's D, right? So we call that the D shape. So at the end of it, the relative major's here, relative minor. So when you find the root here with this E, you can memorize that you're in the D shape. This is called position 3, if you don't want to call it the D shape, because I realize that could probably get confusing, right? But I like it because if I know where this thing is, I know the 3-note per string system, so that hooks together the Ionian with Phrygian. Dorian, I mean. So I look for that. I look for like, that might not be useful to you. So if it's not, discard it. Don't use it. The main point of it is anytime you find your root note, it's this shape. Position 1. Find the E here. Didn't do the B string. That's what happens when you don't. You want to be able to hear that. That's wrong. That's not the pentatonic sound. We'll talk about this blues house next time. But inside of position 2 of the minor pentatonic, you're really in the major. So G major here. The blues house starts on the major 3rd. This is the peak of it, and here are the walls. So it's, what is that? That's 4. 4, 3, 5, 3, 5. A lot of people, that's what they learn just after this shape. Because you just come up to it. So when you're inside this blues house, you can tell a lot of information. The first thing you can know is if this is if the blues house, that's your minor root, in this case E, the minor chord here. This is the D minor shape. Whatever was on your B strings, the root. So E, this is E minor. I can go ahead and grab the root up here on the D string. So in cage, this is the D minor shape, right? So the peak of the blues house will have root 5th, flat 3 of the chord, right? So it's a first inversion. Oh, it's a second inversion. It has the 5th on the top. 5, root 3. Right? That means the 1 chord is this triad inside the blues house. So I'm looking for stuff like that when I do this. I'm starting with finding the notes. And this is G, not E. And then I'm making it rhythmic. And you might want to, it's sloppy, but I don't want to edit that. It's something I need to work on. But you can start adding on the thirds to it. do all that stuff and start adding on to it. And that's what we're going to do here, because foundations are important. And so, yeah, I need to put the link for Osnoy. More coffee, we'll end it with that. And if you watched this far, and I'm sorry if you did, I do want this to be a place where us late beginners, intermediates can kind of get together and, you know, try to work it out. Because in the mentorship, even in the mentorship, it's been hard for us in that to make a video or to put our music out. It's a common problem. You might think it's like, well, I'm not good enough, so I'm not doing it. But we all think that. And then we all get imposter syndrome too, which, you know, I want to talk about that. Because I think even though there's a ton of people better than us putting videos out, you know, the mediocre people need a banner to march behind. And I think in doing that, we'll end up being pretty good ourselves. So I hope everybody has a great week. Thank you.